Alright, hello everybody. So, I had asked you guys, all the people on my Discord server, what you'd like to see a tutorial about for this lovely 4th of July occasion. And there's some interesting concepts, so I chose to go with a binary planet system. It's very close, sort of like heavily interacting. I'm not really working off concept art. I'm not really sure how this is going to turn out. Just curious to see what I could do with it. So, without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to turn down my tunes a bit so I can think clear. Alrighty. So, brainstorming. I want these planets to be different. So I'm thinking one would be like lava planet, one might be an ice planet, one might be like a forest planet maybe. We'll see. Right, I'm gonna check this to make sure. Alright, looks like everything's working. Alright, let's get started. So, we got a cube. Let's subdivide it a bit. Make it a sphere, and then just for good practice, let's make sure we normalize the radius to 1. You can do that by just taking this dimension, setting them to 2, and then up here in object, apply scale. And then, so I'm going to just use a low resolution base mesh, and then a couple subsurface. That's probably good. Let's switch to cycles. Let's get our lighting set up properly. There's a lot of people that like to do fancy space lighting. I don't really see. I think you can get a good result just by using one sun lamp. Boom. So I want to do some of this procedurally, some of this with some textures. So I'm thinking I'm going to do some of the lava procedurally for the lava planet. I know I found a few good ways to do that, so let's just start making a lava mask here. How about that? I'm just going to make this one be the lava planet. Let's see, so we want texture coordinate, and then I'm going to do convert a vector math, and I'm going to plug this object in the first thing and then set it to normalize. What this is going to do is it's going to allow us to use some like real physical displacement to actually and the texture won't be freakish and mess up, so it's going to be fun. Let's see, so I'm brain dead, pardon me. Let's add in a texture. Let's do Musgrave on scale vector, and then we're going to use multifractal, set the dimension to like 0.1. 0.0 is a bit too much, but 0.1 seems to work pretty well. Change the detail up. You don't need to be excessive with this, but just so that it looks detailed enough at close enough ranges. Then we're going to add in a few math nodes. First one, multiply. Second one, we want to do a power. And just crush that in. And that's an interesting texture. The issue, though, pretty sure you already figured this out, is it doesn't flow. So how you can do that is you can add in a noise texture, and then add in a few mix RGBs. Actually, factor set to 1. I like to add in a subtract node here. That way it doesn't move the entire texture when I'm adding this to it. And then a multiply. And then I like to add in the value. It's important to use mix RGBs because they preserve three-dimensional color data rather than the this is what happens with a regular math node. Not very fun. But yes, that's giving us a little bit of flow, but it looks a bit weird. So I'm increasing the detail, decreasing the scale. Then I'm going to push this up a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to use a converter, well, not converter, vector mapping to squish it a bit. I generally like to do this with planets because sort of there's a lot of features that align themselves with the rotation. I think the lava just looks a little bit, I don't know, it looks a little bit better that way, I think. Yeah, so mess with this. Yeah, this is what I like to do for lava. Generally, I just, for shading it, I just use a regular emission shader and then set the color to like reddish orange. And then you can add another multiply and just mess with the power here to get the result you want. Yeah, so that's that. Now I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna break the custom here, and I am going to actually go into World Machine to build out a terrain for this landscape, for this planet. If you don't have this software, I'll put what I create in the description. How about that? Because it is a paid software, and I think that you should have access to this, to some of the maps I'm using. Yeah, it's pretty capable. If you were to get a terrain creation software, which I highly suggest you do, for landscapes and even in this case planets, I think you should get World Creator. I haven't really messed with it, but World Machine seems like it's getting a bit old. Still a good piece of software though. Now I'm going to attempt to explain what I'm doing here, just so you can sort of see the logic behind it. Since it's not Blender, for purely Blender users, just be warned, it's a bit confusing. So there's different types of nodes. This advanced Perlin, that's advanced Perlin noise. So it's generating a basic noise map. That's what it looks like. And then you have curves which will adjust the height. So that's that with and without curves. This is with curves, this is without. And then the erosion node, well, it's erosion. And then I'm going to change the resolution a bit. Relatively fast build. Nice. I'm going to increase the persistence a bit here. pretty good. Maybe make a bit. Yeah, so erosion, this is a very fun node to mess around with. You can get so many interesting results. Alrighty. I think that looks pretty good. Alright, so yeah, I'm just gonna think for a sec what I want to do with this next. Alright, I think I know what we should do. Let's add in some distortion here to this noise, because if you look at it, it's quite plain. Luckily there's a distortion node, so I'm going to duplicate that, just keep the settings, maybe change the persistence down a bit, obviously generate new seeds. Filter, displacement. Change this to vector. There we go. That's nice. Let's try this. This is going to probably break up our erosion pass a little bit, which is going to be good, because you don't want a whole lot of straight lines and shit. Yeah, much better. Okay. Is there anything else I am going to kick myself for not doing? Okay. This is one planet I do want to try and recreate. That's sort of what I'm referencing for this, by the way. So I'm not completely without reference material. Okay. Yeah, let's add more to this distortion, and let's change this curves to be a bit sharper. That looks lovely. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah, let's work with that. So let's create channel combiner. Red, green, blue. That's going to be nice. Then a bitmap output. open EXR. Alright, let's save that. Actually, nope, not yet. Then let's also EXR. No, I don't want to do that. Whatever. Let's call this I'm going to do my coloring in Blender, by the way. It's a lot easier. Alright, and then row commands. I'm going to increase the size a bit. That's a reasonable build time. Alright, let's build this. Let's go. I'm just going to give that a second to build. Almost done. I think. Maybe. Alright. Sorry for making you wait through that, but we're now done. This is going to be a nice split map. Alright, now let's write the outputs to disk. This may or may not work. I didn't look good, so maybe I'm gonna just use a texture. But how are we doing on time, by the way? Oh, not bad. I'm gonna keep that right there. Wrong one. Alrighty, let's disconnect that. Let's add an input. We don't need that. Let's add in a texture. What am I doing? We should add a principled BSDF. and then Control T. Open up the file. It's in tutorials. There we go. Alright, generated and then box. No, not sphere. Box is what I usually like to use. And then you can fade it. This looks promising. Let's add in a vector displacement. Then we change this displacement setting to displacement and bump, and we'll see how that looks. How about displacement only? Okay, this light is way 0.5. Okay, let's add in some bump back. Let's just do bump. Displacement and bump. Yeah, that's nice. So this interpolation type, top one, I like to use cubic for height maps because it's smoother. And it's not, like, you can see it's sort of now bumpy instead of sharp. How many polys do we have? A decent amount. Okay, let's see how this looks on. Right, this is a naming failure. Just ignore it, please. Okay, so the displacement looks like it is subtle enough so it's not screwing up our texture. So it looks like we might still be able to make this work without having to create sphere projections and stuff. Let's converter, separate RGB. Right, that's nice. Okay, let's put that back in there. And then I'm going to import another texture, and this is going to be like an image texture. Planets. This is probably my favorite texture to use for desert planets. It's a really nice texture. So this is what I'm going to be using for sand, and then I think I'll just use, let's look at this reference again. And I'll figure something out for the rocks. Hue saturations are always a good bet here. Okay. So I'm just messing with some settings here, trying to make this mask a little bit more convincing here. Creating color imp and setting it to ease always helps you bring out a little bit more contrast. So I like to do that a lot. Alright, I'm going to create I'm going to instead, that's, alright, you know, this might be a bit difficult in Blender. Let's try a new tactic. Just load up this guy and let's see what he can do. Oh my, much better. Let's use, we got bitmap output, let's use a scene view. This is going to be texture. Well, actually, let's give ourselves a render. Boom. That's looking pretty good. Yeah, I should have done this from the start. It's combiner. Let's add a little bit of surface detail. I'm going to select convexity. Just take this, then set this to multiply. That's a bit. That's good. Alright, let's change this to color. Save PNG, write it to disk. Come on. Alright, let's try this now. Probably don't need that. Let's do a little bit of color correction here. It's a bit blown out. I think we can change that. Just a little bit of white there. We're gonna have to patch that up inside a world machine. There we go. That's a bit more uniform. Yeah, that's a lot better. Alright, I think that's our work here done. Why is it taking so freaking long? Yeah, we're like more than half an hour in, still on one planet. Next one will be faster, don't worry. Yeah, I'm not super satisfied with that. Maybe it's just the colorant that's doing that. Alright, I'm going to just select the... I'm going to show you a little trick I found to deal with this sort of stuff. If you don't like the texture on a certain object, separate HSV, and then you can choose the saturation. Okay. And then value let's try that. Then you can always just power multiply and set this like a 0.9, so you still get some variation. Alright, let's now converter math, then power, or not power, multiply. Actually, let's just converter vector math, then add, then I'm going to scale this -1. And this is basically, this is just our lava mask. So this is going to indent it a little bit. I'm going to duplicate this power node and make it a little bit less harsh. So it's linear. Good. Alright, let's see what this looks like. Let's also shader, add shader, and then we can add this to that. Alright, it's going to take a little while to load, probably. Thinking displacement only is the way to go for this one. Yeah, it doesn't look so good. Let's change this back to like 3. Alright, I'm wondering what would happen if we just duplicated this and instead use... Let's see, actually, let's compare. Perfect. That's going to be nice. Okay, let's try changing this dimension up a little bit more and then multiplying it by a bit more. That actually looks really cool. Not gonna lie there. Maybe a bit much on the distortion, but I think that we've got a winner in terms of it's nice. I love those cracks. Yeah, this is nice. It's probably one of the better lava plants I've made so far. Let's add an atmosphere and some clouds to it though. That will really add a lot. Yeah, atmosphere first, how about that? Let's call this the ground. Let's duplicate this. This would be atmosphere. You don't need those crazy subdivision levels. No, you could literally just copy the atmosphere from my other planet tutorial, the most recent one, the fast one. But I'm going to recreate it here at slower speed so that it's a bit easier for people to see and understand what I'm doing. I might actually just end up not using it because the lava itself might just look better without it. Although I'm planning on using it. Alright, so I'm going to keep that texture coordinate. Converter, vector math, length. Oh, not distance, length. Okay. Oh, by the way, we need to add in a displacement. Vector displacement, mid-level 0, scale 1, add in a value. This is just going to make it a bit more procedural if you want to, this value represents the thickness of our atmosphere. This is going to make it a bit more procedural so that we don't have to change stuff every time we want to change the atmosphere. Divide the length. Actually, we want to first subtract 1, then divide this by that. So I don't want it to really get too dense lower down. So I'm gonna make this a maximum, this and 0. So that's basically, it's gonna cut off at 0. It's not gonna go to negatives. So let's add in a power base 0.5. Let's multiply this, and then converter math multiply. This is going to be the overall strength of our atmosphere, so I'm going to add another, and then shader volume scatter. Let's see how that looks. Let's change the density a bit. See, you can scroll in. I think this might look best without a thick atmosphere, so I'm just going to keep this very thin for now so that we kind of get like a haziness effect, but it's not super pronounced. And then I'm also going to volumes maybe set like 0.1. Okay, let's do a render test. Alright, I think I'm gonna finish this up right now, and then I'll do the other plan in the next tutorial, which might be tomorrow or the day after. And then we'll do some more special fancy effects on we'll do some fancy effects on like the third installment, or if the second one goes fast, maybe there. Should have set my tile size to something more appropriate, but it's working. Alright, so I'm going to use this for this remaining time for a little bit of self-promotion, I guess. So if you aren't familiar, I have a Discord server. I've been communicating with my followers and for a little while now. We've got almost 300 members, and we do competitions and fun stuff like that. So if you're interested, by all means, we'd love to have you. It's really fun. I'm trying to grow my community there, and yeah, let's wait for the surrender. By the way, you can also ask questions about the tutorial there. You can just hang out. I do a lot of streaming and stuff on there. See you in the voice chats. But yeah, I will link the textures I created in World Machine in the description, because I think that those would be helpful to many people here, because you don't want to have to buy a World Machine. Almost done. And with that being said, I'll see you guys later. Alright, see ya.